So I'll get started. So hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. It's November 12th. It's rainy and cold here in Montreal, Canada, but I'm sure it's nice and sunny in Florida, where Mark Simon happens to be. So just a little bit about Mark Simon today. Mark is not only a Storyboard Pro genius, but he's a storyboard artist who's been in the business for over 20 years, and he's written books and won awards. Most recently, he won a Telly Award as well. He's been working with us for many, many years, and he's very instrumental in, pushing Storyboard Pro forward and helping our development team here in Montreal. He's in the industry, so he really knows what's going on all the time. So therefore, having friends like Mark Simon is great. And this is the first installment of a three-part series that we're going to be doing on Storyboard Pro. Let you in all on a little secret. There will be a new version of Storyboard Pro in the new year. But in the meantime, to get us to the new version of Storyboard Pro, we're always looking for feedback and, tips and tricks and ideas. So, if you have any questions, if you have any suggestions about this version, it would be great if you could send them to us at webinars@toonboom.com. This webinar is being recorded, and we'll have it online shortly after this webinar. And what will happen as well is once we're done in the last 10 minutes of this webinar, you can send us in your questions, and we'll be happy to answer them to the best of our ability. So I'll hand it over to Mark Simon now.
Thank you, Desi. So nice to meet all of you guys. So this will be fun. There's a lot to cover on this. What I'm going to try to do is hit some of the highlights and focus some things specifically on boarding for animation, because obviously next week we're then doing live action, and I board both. Actually, I probably board more live action. I just prefer animation. So what I figured I'd do is just briefly give you guys a little bit more of an idea on some of my background, then we'll get into some specifics here on the software. So I actually started the industry, art direction and production designing feature films. This shirtless dude here, or sleeveless dude here, is me way back in the early 80s at Roger Corman's studio, where I got started on the midnight classic Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity. Yes, it is a midnight movie that is available. Check it out. I'm also a syndicated cartoonist with Hollyweird, making fun of all of you that I work with, so watch closely what you say around me, because I'll probably make fun of it. I've written right now about 10 books on the industry. I'm writing a couple more at the moment. The book Storyboards Motion Art is the Bible of the industry, and it's I don't know how many languages. I think I'm at 6 or 8 languages now around the world. What a lot of you may be familiar with is also my facial expression series of books. It's all photo reference of models of all ages and nationalities from all angles. These were a lot of fun to do because I use them all the time, so I don't just draw myself. I'm also a 2-time national champion in Taekwondo, so when I get mad at something, I can hurt it. And then, of course, I got into storyboarding. One thing when I was designing movies and TV shows, I missed drawing. I was seeing storyboards come across my desk. I thought, I really want to get into that. So I hung up my designing cape and put on my artistic cape, and realize that being a story artist is a hell of a lot more fun, because I get to tell stories, work directly with the directors, and draw all day. I mean, life is pretty damn good. So on the left here, this is Alex Zam. I'm working with him. I was the animation producer on Tooth Fairy 2, Larry the Cable Guy, and I also storyboarded all the live action, so it was kind of interesting doing the mix there. And seeing Larry here on the right in a pink tutu is, well, you want to gouge your eyes out, but it is funny. I actually got my start in directing with Spielberg. This is, I don't know if any of you remember Sequest. It was kind of like Star Trek underwater. This is back in the 90s, and I was the story artist and concept illustrator for the NBC series. I started doing second unit direction, and this is actually out on location with the effects supervisor and the supervising producer out on location as I was directing the sequence. I've actually been doing all this for over 29 years now, and I've got somewhere over 4,000 credits. You tend to lose count after a while, but I just kind of track it. I do anywhere from 3 to a dozen or 15 projects every week, so it adds up pretty quickly. And just a couple projects that you guys might be familiar with. I mentioned Tooth Fairy 2. I'm also the animation producer and board artist on the latest Little Rascals that came out earlier this year. Waterboy, I I did the boards and I did all the logos you can see there on his helmet, the Mud Dog logo. But I also designed my favorite thing is I designed the tattoo of Roy Orbison that's on Henry Winkler's ass. That's my claim to fame. Of course, Sequest I talked about right here. Magic City, I boarded that. Your Next, the DVD for Your Next actually has a number of my animatics. That was a long distance production. Because of being able to use Storyboard Pro and my Cintiq and Skype, I actually never went to location. I never met anyone on the production. I did the entire production. I storyboarded everything. I did animatics of the entire movie, long distance, and it worked just beautifully. And I was also the supervisor, or the, God, what the hell was my title on that? Creative consultant on the first season of Dragon Tales. And then Nickelodeon, I was actually the second designer at Nickelodeon when it went national here in Orlando. And so, here I've got Guts. I was one of the designers of the Aggro Crag and numerous shows on Nick. Obviously here, worked a lot of work with them. I also work with a lot of people on how to pitch their ideas. And one of the things that we've done with both live action and animation is because Storyboard Pro allows us to do animatics almost real time. I mean, obviously it takes a little extra time, but it's so much shorter than it's ever been before. We pitch with animatics all the time. And this is actually a photo on the right of me pitching to Chorus. And then in the bag down the floor, I had my my little Cintiq companion. I popped it out and played the videos, and it's by far the best way to pitch an idea. I do a lot of lecturing. Here I am in China speaking on producing animation, and then at TAC, the animation convention in Ottawa, actually profiling Storyboard Pro. That was a lot of fun. And then I train a lot of studios as well. This is in Mexico. There's a couple studios in Mexico that I trained all their directors and board artists on using Storyboard Pro. I did the same thing even at Digital Domain here in the U.S. Of course, I own Animatics Storyboards. It's a big storyboard company here, one of the biggest in the southern U.S. And like I said, we do everything: feature films, commercials, TV series, you name it. I also have an animation company. It's mostly for development and short form content. In fact, some of that's from a music video we just produced. And sell your TV concept now. In fact, this photo was taken. You can see the arrows pointing. The guy on the right is the president, Nat Abraham, president of Breakthrough Entertainment. And during that event, the guys on the top left sold a project to him. So things like that are always exciting. Now, I'm going to be covering on this a lot of the tricks and some of the things I just think are freaking cool about this software. But if you want to know all the specifics on what buttons to push and all the details on how to use this, I also produced 67 videos for lynda.com specifically on Storyboard Pro. And the easiest way to get there is just go to lynda.com/Mark Simon. I mean, can't make it much easier than that. And you get right into it. So, and all the videos are really short. They're generally 5 or 6 minutes long. So you can learn anything about it very, very quickly. So as I get going, I want to show you guys just real briefly here on what kind of setup I've got. So I've got two different setups I'll use Storyboard Pro. In this picture here, this is my Cintiq Companion, which is the Windows 10. Basically, it's a laptop computer, but it's a tablet. And I carry this with me. It's got about a 5-hour battery on it. So even when I'm going across the country on a plane, I have full battery power the entire time, or if I'm out on location with the director, I can keep boarding. What I'm working on here in the office is the bigger Cintiq, the 22 Touch. And this is actually what I'm using right now as I'm talking to you guys. So this is what I'm going to be working on as I'm demonstrating all this. If you don't have a Cintiq, obviously the Microsoft Surface works really well. But I have found, I've tested just about everything out there, and I have found that the Cintiqs are just by far superior. So that's why I have a whole bunch of them, and it's definitely worth it. All right, so let me switch over here to show the other screen. All right, so you should be seeing the storyboard panel here. So this, what I'm going to be demonstrating here is from a pilot that I'm actually directing. We're just about done producing it right now, so you guys are actually getting the first look at it. And this is called The Peculiar Adventures of Willow B. Star. It was created by Ariane Smith up in New York, and I've worked with her on a couple projects. So, so we did all the boards and animatic on this, and I'm directing all the animation and the voice actors on it. So Ariane was nice enough to allow us to use this as an example. And I'm going to take you through a few different things here. And one thing I also want to mention here is that in using Storyboard Pro, you know, look, I've been doing this a long time, so I'm an old paper guy. I love the feeling of drawing on paper, and I gave that up in a moment as soon as I started using the first edition version of Storyboard Pro. I just flipped over it, and having worked with them over the years, they've really made a lot of huge improvements. And the software really works the way we do. And one of the things I love about it is I'm faster because of the software. I'm better because of the software, especially as I get it through here and I've shown you how we do the animatics and some of the cool tricks on here. Because I can hit play and actually see it, I know if it's working or not. I don't have to guess or figure out someone else's timing or wait till afterwards. Real time as I'm working, I know if my shots are working. And I'm making changes on the fly that I've never been able to do before. And because it's all digital and how quickly I can export and I'm not scanning anymore, you know, it takes just a couple seconds to make the PDF files to send to my clients. That means I'm delivering faster, which means I make more money, which is always a great thing. And the clients love it because they're seeing more than they've ever been able to see before. They're getting it faster, and I get to charge more. So it's really a win-win. So for those of you who are struggling with whether you want to move away from paper or not, there's really no competition, and this is coming from a guy who started in paper. So that said, let me show you a couple of really cool things. One is when you start on Storyboard Pro and you just install it, whenever you go to make a new panel or a new scene, and I've got different icons up here on top, so I can add a panel to a current scene or I can add a new scene. It's going to ask me if I want to add 8B, in this case in between two other scenes. I'm going to say yes. Notice it comes up with my layers here. Just like Photoshop, we draw in layers in Storyboard Pro. Well, the default layers are background and A. Well, for those of you who draw digitally, every time you start a new page that you're drawing on, you've got to recreate your layers again. And that's really time consuming, and really, realistically, it's just kind of a pain in the ass. So what I do is I have a way that I normally start every project on, which is here: rough, background, tone, ink, foreground. Then I have separate layers for arrows and notes, so I can turn those off, or exporting to movies, arrows and notes won't export to a movie. I can set up all that. But I don't want to create this every time because that takes time. So I'm going to highlight rough because when I make a new panel, I'm always going to start drawing there. This is this is such a stupid, simple little thing, but it's actually brilliant. Is I can go under layer, and the bottom selection is set layer layout as default. So now when I go to make a new panel, it's blank, but it lays out all my layers exactly the way I want them. Not only that, but it also highlights whatever I had highlighted before, which in this case is rough. So I just click new panel or new scene, and I'm ready to draw on the right layer. That alone saves me a huge amount of time. So, and you're going to see this type of thing go on and on. Now, because we're talking about animation specifically, I also want to show you guys that there's a way to set this up so that I'm numbering things specifically for, let me go down here to properties under storyboard. Whoops, no, that's not it. Under edit, preferences. So under general, I can do either live action or animation numbering. Now this is, it's called terminology style, but this is numbering. This is very important because in animation, in particular 2D animation, you don't have shots. You have scenes and you have sequences. But in live action, within every scene, we have numerous shots, different camera angles within the same location. So you want to make sure that your terminology style is set properly. So in this case, we're going to work in animation. So all the numbering is going to work out the way we want it to. Okay. So let's go to showing you pens. One of the things that I hear from a lot of new artists who are thinking about working in Storyboard Pro or any kind of digital, they don't like the way the pens work because the lines aren't anti-aliased or they're not smooth enough. Well, that's not really the case. So you can make your own pens, but there's a lot of really great pens in here. So right now, what I've got selected here is the 25 pixel textured pen or textured brush. So as you can see, it's a really beautiful line. And the harder I push, obviously, and here I'll zoom in on that line. So it really looks like a pencil line as I'm working. And I've got bigger, I can just click a bigger one for filling areas in, or I can, I've got something is happening. Let's see what's going on here in the background. Give me just a second. Sorry, had that noise going on. I had to get rid of it. But I can adjust that size here on the slider. So, or I can make it just gigantic. So filling in areas is really fast. And just like working with a pencil, the more I work over an area, the darker it's going to get. So it's the quality of the line is amazing. Now there are differences between this is a I'm on a vector layer. Here you can see that this is a vector icon, these three little shapes. But I can also go to a bitmap layer. In a bitmap layer, the line is going to look the same, but when I work with it later, it's different because I can do different things with it. Now on a vector layer, I can also do a vector line. Now vector line is very clean, very sharp. It looks a bit aliased here, but it exports anti-aliased. And I can manipulate that like I can in any kind of line in Flash. So I can thicken it, I can extend things, I can do any number of things that I want with it. I can skew it, I can put things into perspective, but I can only do that with a vector brush on a vector layer. I don't have as many options on a bitmap layer with a bitmap brush. However, I don't work with vector lines. That's not the way I personally like to draw. I much prefer drawing like I do with a pencil. And so whenever let me just erase everything on this layer real quick. Turn that off, turn that off, turn that off. So when I'm sketching, oops, back to the brush I like. So when I'm sketching, I might just lay out my character on on my rough layer. It's just like drawing with a blue pencil like we're used to. And then I just go into another layer, and here's another cool thing that I love. Because notice I can switch, like in Photoshop, you never really know what layer you're working on. And this is one of the cool things I love about Storyboard Pro, is they were smart enough to realize that that's a big screw up that all of you do this. You draw on the wrong layer, and then you go back and say, now I got to go back and erase and change things. Well, right now when I change layers, the visuals doesn't change. But if I go over here and I click on this light table icon, this little light over here in the lower left, when I go to another layer, everything else grays out. So I know, okay, now I'm on the rough layer, now I'm on a different layer. So now I can come in and I can then do my cleanup. I'm just going to do just a little bit here without wasting much time, right? And then I can just turn off the rough layer, so I'm not doing any erasing anymore. And again, it's a little thing, but it saves me a lot of time as I'm working through the day. So let me go to scene 7, panel 11. Here we go. So here, there's a couple things. This is another thing that I love that helps with my timings and figuring out what's going to happen in my animation is over 2 panels here, I've got a camera move set up and I have a layer move. So what you see is the background moving. I'm not moving the layer of the background because I actually have the layer of Ned here, and I've got my background layer drawn separately, and I've got Mrs. Wentley here in the chair. All those are separate layers, so I move the camera over them. Now, while that's happening, this character here, Melva, she's sliding into frame. So what we did here is I am able to take a layer, so that's, and I can animate just one layer. So that might be, all right, so this is right now, this is the first frame, that's where she is. The last frame of this shot, that's where she is. I can adjust it where she comes much further into frame. And that quickly, now as I scrub it, now she comes all the way in. If I want to adjust the camera, once I select my camera icon here, I can now come in and adjust how I can zoom in. So let's say I want to zoom in and come over to Ned. So now that fast, boom. So this is where the speed of this is just absolutely incredible. Give you an example here. And this is something when I'm working with directors, talk about impressing directors when you're working with them, and you can do some of these things which we've, before I'd have to redraw or copy and paste and everything. Now I'm doing it real time, as things are, as I'm working. So in this case, what I'll want to do, let's say I want to zoom in a bit on her as she's talking. So I can add keyframes. Now I'm going to hit the two buttons over here that adds a keyframe at the beginning of the scene and a keyframe at the end. I can put keyframes anywhere I want. So what we'll have here are red and green. Green is beginning, red is end. So I know I'm moving the end of the shot. So I'm going to push in and push over. And that fast, I've added a camera move of pushing in on her. And now I've got other panels in the rest of the scene, and it stays where it is because when the camera stops, it stays there. Now, right now that camera move is just over one panel, but check this out. I can actually have that camera move extend over all the panels. So I can just draw it the way I want without worrying about how big or small she needs to be in frame, and I can do a camera move over an entire scene. Not only that, I can actually take it and I can curve that camera move that easily. And if I don't like that, I just undo it. I can change things. I can zoom back out. It's non-destructive. I can go anywhere I want with my camera. And it's just so incredible to be able to work this way. And like I said, with the layer, let's have her move around. So let's say I'm going to now start her over here. I'm going to end her over there. That quickly, now in this panel, she's moving that fast. There is no other way of drawing that's any faster, because now look, if I've got a director that says, you know what, that move looks great, but we forgot the zit on her face. Okay, so let's give her a hairy zit, and then I hit play, and it's done. I don't have to go back all those steps back to the original art and then export it and bring it into After Effects and then move it in After Effects and take it and put it back into either Premiere or Final Cut, wherever you're editing in, to see the finished piece. I make the adjustment and I hit play. I mean, come on. You can't find anything anywhere near that, any other way to make it near that fast. All right, so now I want to show you just real quickly one of the really cool things of using the library. Now, a library, you can have any number of things in there. You can use drawings from your storyboard, you can use photo reference, you can have audio, you can even have 3D objects that you can save, find, capture, and then move right into your project. So, for instance, whenever I am doing building an animatic, and basically these days when I do a storyboard, I'm always creating an animatic. Even if I'm doing my own scratch track, which is just a temporary audio, that's the only way I know or it's the best way I know to really see if my project is working or not. So we always break the audio down, as you see here on the right, where we number them. So the 21st line of dialogue is Ned, and he's talking to Melva. So I number it so they all show up in order. It makes it very easy for us to use it in the animatic. And then just the way we have it named, I know at a glance what it is. Now I can click on it, and then I can drag it right in. And just that fast, I have the audio down here that I can then move wherever I want. I can also cut it. I can grab the end of it, and I can edit the length of it, anything I need that fast as I'm working. So yeah, the audio, being able to work with the audio is just absolutely incredible. But I can do a lot more than that using the library. So for references, let's see. Well, this is from Willow. We have this flower icon that is always on her hat, and we use this as a transition where it goes from her hat, or and then comes up and fills the frame as a transition, kind of like the old Batman from the 60s, right? So rather than redrawing it, we actually have the real logo that we're going to be using. So we just keep it here and just drag it in, and I use it, and I can manipulate it. You know, in this case, let's see, I want this to be a 2D layer. In this case, it would start really small, and then it'll fill the frame, so that fast, and then it goes back down again. So I can animate all that real quickly, and I'm not having to redraw things. But wait, there's more. Yeah, I feel like it's an infomercial here. Order now! All right, so let me find scene 13. Panel 18. Here we go. All right, so the background here, it's not that complicated, but I don't want to have to redraw that over and over and over, right? Backgrounds can be very time consuming. So if I'm going to have the same angle, which in this case we use this angle over and over again, I can actually take that layer, drag it into my library, and just let go. It's going to import that layer in, and then it's going to ask me if I want to rename it. So I can keep the default, or in this case, I'm going to do salon background, so I know what it is at a glance. Click OK, and here it popped up. So if I go back to, let me turn off that layer. Let's say in here I need to use that salon background. Now that I've saved it, all I have to do is drag it back in. In this case, I must have been in a much bigger frame, but that's all right because I can just now resize it and fit it right in to my scene. So I'm not having to redraw anything. Let me zoom back in here for you guys. I'm using my touch screen, so I'm putting two of my fingers on the screen at the same time. That's why you see it angle around. It's kind of using an iPad. So that fast, I can reuse, and here it shows up as a background layer, and I can move that. I can drag and drop my layers to any order I want, just like in Photoshop. And I can just start redrawing my characters. Now, there are times that you also might want in not only a single layer, but a shot or a scene with all the different layers, right? Well, I can actually drag an entire panel in. So I'll grab this panel, drag it into my library, and I'll show you what's going to happen here in just a second. All right, so it's going in. So I'm going to call this sample panel. It didn't let me do that, but that's all right, because I can rename it later. But what I can do here is, let me just add a new panel in. So it's blank, and I can drag it in, and it's going to bring in all of my individual layers with all the art. So I can manipulate. So if I liked it, but I want Melva different, or if I want to get rid of Ned, all the layers are there for me to work on. So again, huge, huge savings on time. All right, so one of the things, just let me find a little sequence here. All right, so if I can just hit play here.
Why didn't you tell me Mrs. Whitley was gone?
Oh, am I supposed to know everything?
So, you know, you really get a feel for the acting and the timing and the voices, and these are the actual voices. But you don't always have time, or you don't always have access to the final voices when you're working. So, in this case, I did, and I put it in. And the way I organize everything is the first 2 layers of audio. And by the way, unlimited layers of audio. I've done as many as 20 or 30, and it hasn't even bogged down at all. But I always use the first 2 layers for voices. That way I can have an overlap. The layers 3 and 4, audio layers 3 and 4, or tracks, I use for sound effects. And then I can add more, and I could just click on this plus sign over here and add as many layers as I want. 5 and 6, I do music. And the reason it's important to try to keep that is that when you need to export just the voices for someone to work with, if all your voices are clean on tracks 1 and 2, you can export audio, which is very quick and easy. Just go to File, Export, and I can go down to Soundtrack. When I export that, I can pick out individual soundtracks. I can merge them all. I can set it up, and I can set up the entire project, or I can select only certain scenes or certain shots. So I have a lot of options there, but the more organized I am in setting it up, the better it's going to be for production. Now, I don't always have time, or like I said, have access to that to recording the audio. So I can actually come in here, and if I right-click on an audio track, let me go down to an empty audio track here. I can click on Record Sound, and I'll record. Hey, this is Mark, and I'm testing the sound. So that says recorded. Let's do Dumb Mark, and I'll call it that. And here it popped up. Now we hear Melva. I'm going to turn off. See how easy it is to turn off different tracks? So now, that fast I can lay in scratch tracks real time as you're working. There is nothing else that allows you to do it. Now, just a little quick story on this, which was really fun. I've been working for a while now on a movie. For those of you who are old enough to remember Hong Kong Phooey, it's an animation series, Hanna-Barbera series back from I guess it was in the 70s. And Hong Kong Phooey, #1 super guy. Well, with Warner Brothers, we're doing a feature version of that. It's a live-action CG hybrid, kind of like the Smurfs, but good. So as we were working, we've done a 2-minute piece. That was we had a really good budget to work on that. Alex Zam was the director on it, and Alex and I sat down and we did this whole process, and I recorded the scratch track of all of Phooey's dialogue. In fact, all the dialogue in it that I was boarding with, so we could get the timings and really work out all the jokes and everything. And Eddie Murphy is actually doing the voice of Phooey. And it was funny because after I got finished with the animatic, we sent over to Eddie and his people and had him record the actual dialogue. I'll tell you, you want to feel bad about your acting abilities? Listen to you act and then have Eddie Murphy do it. Oh my God, he was so good. I wish I could play it for you, but you've seen the contracts that the networks and studios have. Yeah, having his voice made a whole different thing. It was absolutely amazing. Okay, so getting back to working in the software here. So I'm going to zoom in on my timeline. So let's say, let me find a little sequence here, because you can drag and drop. Here's a nice short one. So let's say between this panel and this panel, there's not much happening here other than she's zooming out and she's sitting there. But let's say for some reason I wanted to switch them. All I have to do is grab and drag, and they switch that fast. It even renumbers. If I go here under panel, it'll show me the scene number and panel number. If I don't like it, I can simply just drag it back. Now notice the little green line there. That shows me it's going to attach, so it stays in the same scene. However, if I drag it out, I can drag it into another scene. So now it's in the middle, so we come from there to here to back and back again. I can drag it right back. I can have it be its own. If I center it in between two, look, it's even asked me, new name 9A, sure, I'll accept that. If I don't like that, I can just do undo here. I can go undo for as long as I want, and there it's back the way I want it. But I can also grab numerous panels, and I can drag a few of them together. So it's all drag and drop. It'll renumber for me, change numbering around. So it's no more cutting and pasting, going to the Xerox machine, moving things around, and repasting and renumbering. Oh, renumbering. All right, let's take a look at renumbering. So let's say, I'm going to zoom out. This is a bane of my freaking existence with renumbering. So if I'm going to take this scene and I'm going to move it down here, I'm going to take this one, I'm going to move this up here. So now we go looking at the numbering set, scene 8, 8B, 10, 9, 11, 12, 8A. All right, this is all totally screwed up. Okay, so let's say from 8 on I want to change it. This is how fast I can go. I can go storyboard. Why is it not letting me do this? I can just go into rename scene and I can rename the entire project. Here we go. I had it locked, which is actually a good thing. I don't know if you noticed that. What I'd done here, it's because this is actually a project we had in production, I locked the scene numbers. So that way when you go into production and everyone's working on certain scenes, so what looked to you guys like it was a mistake was actually a great thing. I had actually forgotten I had locked it. So I just went in and unlocked it, so I was able to rename things again. So coming in here, I can go rename a single scene, or I'm going to do a bunch of them. So look, 8, see this is on the left here, all the different numbers. I'm going to have it renumber automatically for me all the way through. Done. I've now renumbered the entire project. For those of you who've ever worked on paper, Photoshop, any way, Flash, that is a royal pain, and it takes absolutely forever to do. Now, here's another cool thing, because when I've got my guys working for me or when we're working on other productions, hopefully the director also knows how to use the software and the editors. And it's very handy when everyone's working the same. That way you have one master. So check this out. So let's say I deliver this to the director. He picks up and he's going to go through and he's going to start making notes, right? So if I come in here and I go under Storyboard and I'm going to click on Track Changes, it's kind of like in Word that anytime I go in, let's say in here, wait a minute, no one finished this. So I put notes on a notes layer. Here you can see labeled, highlighted. And I usually like to draw my notes in red so they really stand out. So, maybe I'll come in here and do, finish the head. But look down here on the timeline. The panel that I'd made a note on highlights in yellow. In here, hey, we're missing characters. So I want to put characters in. As soon as I do any change, it highlights in yellow. So now when the director sends it back to me, all I have to do is go through and I look for anything that's yellow. I know there's going to be a note for me. And then I can validate the changes. I come in here, track changes, validate changes. And let's see, this one, yep, I'm going to validate that. Look, the yellow went away. I'm going to keep this yellow over here for now. But let's say, sometimes it's easier to tell somebody. So here's something I can do. I can come here under panel, and I can actually record a note. So Mark, hey, I don't like the expression on this guy's face. Let's make him sad and unhappy. Stop. So Mark, hey, I'm playing it back. Yep. All right, my note is good. I'll click OK. It also highlights it that there's a thing, and right up here it tells me that there's a voice message 1 of 1. So if oh, and I just deleted it. but you can leave voice messages. I can come in here and I can write in notes. And if I write in a note, it'll pop up and make it look yellow. In fact, there are times, let's say that I want to draw a little sketch of what a location looks like, but I don't want to draw on the frame. So I want it over here on the right. So I can come over here, oops, and I can do add sketch. I'm just going to call it sketch. What that does is, along with dialogue and action notes, it gives me an area here where I can actually draw anything that I want. So if there's important for me to draw a plot plan or something, and that will show up either below or to the right of the panels in a PDF, and it'll obviously show up here. And again, any note that I make is going to show up as a yellow highlighted frame. So it's amazing how many cool things there are here. Oh, and just going back over to here, I can also just turn off the notes layer. So as the artist, it's non-destructive as long as the director is making notes on a layer I'm not drawing on. All right, so let's take a look at CG assets. So I'm going to go to, again, my library, FBX file. So if you have something that's built and saved as an FBX file, a 3D file, you can actually bring that straight into Storyboard Pro. So if you're working on a CG project or even a 2D that has CG elements, and you want to use that element, whether it's a vehicle or maybe a background, you can actually just drag a 3D element, and then you get this thing. A 3D layer was inserted. The scene will automatically convert to 3D. Yep, I'm good with that. All right, so there's the plane. Now I'm going to partially minimize this because I've already opened up top and side views. So my top view, I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see side view. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit as well. And like anything, if I hold down the space bar, it allows me to move the frame around. Okay, so this triangle here, that is the camera. So if I select my camera icon, I can actually move this camera around. And notice on the left, what's happening is I'm moving the camera. On the left is what you see. So let's say I want to bring it over here. And if you've ever worked in 3D, you know how to move these things around in a 3D environment. So, you know, let's say I want to move the camera down low here and then tilt it up. You can see what's happening over here on the left. So I can really adjust however I want. And I can just keep this, zoom back full frame. I can actually use the 3D object here directly within my storyboard, and I can still have access. I can zoom in or out, and I can move my camera around here. But I can still draw. I can still draw directly on it. Now it's not going to let me at the moment because I need to take this layer and I need to align that layer to camera. Once a layer is aligned to camera, now that's a 2D element. So if I go back over here and I move my camera around, notice the 2D layer is also, it's not moving. The camera is moving closer or farther away from it. So you can add 2D and 3D elements together, and it's just amazing what you can do in this. I could actually go on and on that, but I've got just another couple minutes. I just want to show you something real quick here, because I know she's going to stop for Q&A with me in just a moment. But I want to show you two quick things. So Desi, just hold on just a minute. So the dynamic brush. So let me start a new scene here. So I've got a blank frame. So dynamic brush. So this is a regular brush where I'm just drawing. Let me go back to black here. Okay. So I could just draw with black. But a dynamic brush allows me to draw with pre-drawn shapes. So in this case, I've got one saved that's a crowd. Now that's pretty small. Let's say I want to make it bigger. I can, just like any brush, I can make the crowd bigger. Now, I can just go through, and then the layer back behind them will be a bit smaller. And it's super quick and easy to create. And you can use this in a number of different ways. Make another new frame here. So for instance, if I'm on a vector layer, which I am, and I'm using a vector brush, let's say I've got grasses that I want to do, right? So I've just got some weeds drawn here, right? And I want to use that. Well, I'll just select all that, go to my brush, and I'll select over here on the right, new dynamic brush. It saves it right here for me. So now I can actually go through and I can make that as big or as small as I want, like any other brush. Now I've done this for balloons in the air, I've done it for clouds, I've done it for crowds, I've done it for confetti. This is very handy for confetti, multicolored confetti of different shapes. And then I can just put in, so it's that quick and easy. That, again, saves me a huge amount of time. Now, the one last thing I want to show you, there's a lot of things I want to show you, but for exporting. So I can export my entire project as a PDF file in any number of formats that I want, across or vertical, depending on what kind of production you're on. I can export an MOV or an MP4. I can export individual JPEGs or TIFF files under bitmap. I can export the soundtrack like we showed. But here's one of the really cool things. I can also export to Toon Boom. So let's say in here, I want to export scenes, let's say 3 through 5. So I'll just select 3 through 5. And I already have everything set here, but I'm going to hit export. And what this is going to do is this is going to export the storyboard panels, the audio, the timing, and the camera moves here into 3 specific files. So this is scene 3, scene 4, scene 5. So I'm going to open up scene 3. I'm going to double click on Animate. It's going to open up. In my case, it's Animate Pro. But if you've got Harmony, it'll open up Harmony. This will open up here in just a second. Actually, on my other monitor, so I'll drag it over here once it finishes opening. But this is really important because the amount of time this is going to save you. Okay, so this opens up, and I want to go to camera. So this is going to have, okay, so this lays in, or this brings in the storyboards. It lays the storyboards in the background, like my layouts. It gives me the camera moves that I've already approved. It sets the timing, and it puts in the audio clip that was there. So especially if you're working with other studios, one of the notes that I give all the time is, timing is off, guys, this is wrong, it's not framed right, refer to Animatic, refer to Animatic, refer to freaking Animatic. If they're using Toon Boom software, either Harmony or Animate, you don't have to worry about that anymore. You just, once the storyboard's approved, the timings and setup and layout automatically get laid in there. So now the animators just come in and they just start animating right over the backgrounds and layout drawings that you've already done. Everything is there. It makes it absolutely perfect. So, oh, God, there's so much more I want to talk about. But those are some of the key things. You can see how quickly, I'm just going to go ahead and close this. Storyboard Pro makes a difference in your being able to, okay, I'm done. In being able to work on your project, deliver things to clients, and there's so many other really quick tricks of doing it. But I got to tell you, this software has been absolutely phenomenal for me on being able to provide more so much faster for all my clients. Oh, you know what I didn't show? So Desi, pull some images. Well, this is funny. I just wanted to show this is a pan that's on a 3D layer I put together. So this is, I got my foreground tree, and I've got, you can tell I'm excited about this stuff. I've got my character on a separate layer. I've got my mid-tone or my mid-level background. I've got the background of the city, and then I've got the starscape and the moon. And then I put them into a 3D environment. So here you can see the on the right, the camera and those straight lines here are all the different layers. They're just 2D layers. But I just did a really quick, let me make this bigger again. I just did a really quick pan tracking along with the character. All I animated was the character, but because the layers are in depth, it gives me that multiplane effect, and I can zoom into it, which I'm going to show the zooming in and do a more fancier camera move next week when we're doing live action, because I do this a lot for live action projects. But like, come on, that's cool looking. So I feel like I was just revving up all this stuff I want to keep talking about. So, all right, what kind of questions do you have, Debbie?
So we have lots of good questions. Stephanie asked, is there a tool to help with perspective drawings?
For hand drawing, not specifically, but there is a tool to help you with, let me get on to, all right, so I'm on a vector layer here. And so let me do this. Let me grab my brush and a vector line. So I'll just make this something real quick. So as long as I'm using a vector brush on a vector layer, you know, let's say if I'm just doing a really quick brick right there, I can come over here and under Tools, select Perspective, and then I can put the lines into perspective. So, you know, whether if you've got vector logos or whatever, if you want to mess with a vehicle or something, put it in perspective, you can. Obviously, it's pretty easy to manipulate at this point. And I can do the same thing with skewing. You know, it's almost anything. It's non-destructive vector layers. Just remember that to do the perspective, you've got to do vector line on a vector layer. It won't work on bitmap. All right, that was good. Next.
Okay, next question is from Melissa. So Melissa says, can you please talk a little bit more about adding and changing camera transitions?
Oh, sure. That's a great one. So let's say I want to go from, I want to do a cross dissolve from this guy walking to this shot here. Now the default is a cut, obviously, the way the software works, like all softwares are. But if I want to do a cross dissolve, I want to come up here to this icon here that kind of looks like an hourglass. I can just click on it, and it'll put a transition after the panel that I've highlighted. So now, notice, gives me a real-time cross dissolve. I can actually make that cross dissolve as long or short as I want, because I have it highlighted, so I can make it longer. Here, notice every time I click an extra, these are 24 frames a second. And I can make it bigger, and there's a cross dissolve. Now, if I click on the X means it's cross dissolve. If I click on it again, a single line, notice now it becomes a wipe. Now with the wipe, I have, let me click on the transition itself. Why am I not seeing it? Anyway, I can adjust the angle of that cross dissolve. If I click it again, notice there's a little wedge in there. Now it becomes a radial edit. So you've got lots of options in here. Now, obviously, it's not a full edit suite, but even so, you're not going to find any other software you're drawing in is going to give you all these options. You know, I'll just double click again, and so now it slides in. Wow, that's even a new one. I didn't know that one was in there. Generally, I don't do any kind of editing unless it's a cut or a dissolve. And obviously, there's differences on what they mean. Dissolve generally means a passage of time. A cut is almost everything else. So yeah, it's really easy. Okay, next.
So the next question comes from Jason, and Jason asks, is there a way to reset 3D objects rotation to the original setting, or do you have to just re-import it to a second time? You can, on any layer, anything you're working with, under the layer, you can always come down and hit Reset Transform, and it'll take it right back to its original position. So almost no matter what you do, you can do that, or you can also just do the undo
I have my undo set for 32 levels. So, 32, as long as I do 32 or less moves, I can always go back using that. So you've got a couple different options on what to do.
Cool. So we have somebody actually from New Zealand with us today or tonight in their case. He just wants to know, could you please tell me again what is your best-selling book and basically what the title was and just a little bit more information about that.
Wow, it's almost like I paid that person. Fantastic. Great. All right. Let me switch my screens real quick. All right, so my best-selling books, and these are on Amazon, so no matter where you are, where is it? Here we go. These are facial expressions. So the one on the left was the first one that came out. That's adults. They're aged 20 through 83, all nationalities, all sizes, all shapes. There's hats and headgear, photographic phonemes from different angles. It's everything you would want. So anyway, it's called Facial Expressions. The second one, the one in the middle, is babies to teens. So I've photographed everyone from 3 weeks old up to 19. And then the third one is only available as an ebook from my website at marksimonbooks.com. And the ebook, I think I don't know, it's like $12, something like that. But that's all the people who didn't fit in the first two. And it's also got age progression in it. So there's a number of shots in there of the same people for anywhere over a period of anywhere from 15 to 80 years, which is really cool to see how the face changes as an artist. It's really fascinating to be able to see all that. But there's skulls and, like I said, hats from every angle. Hats are another bane of my existence. They're freaking hard to draw. So, yeah, there's a ton of great stuff in there.
Cool. There's a couple of questions. One is coming actually from Alessandro Grande, who's from Venice, Italy. A little buongiorno or buonasera. Yes, there are a bunch of online classes you could take. So Mark Simon has one on lynda.com that will take you through the storyboarding process. So you just have to go to lynda.com. If you want more information about that or our certification programs as well, because Toon Boom does offer classes and tutorials, you can just email us at webinars@toonboom.com, Alessandro, and we'll get you all that information as soon as possible. Another question is about the iPad Pro. Right now, we're still in the testing phases for iPad Pro on Storyboard Pro. We're not ready to say that the software is compatible and works on the iPad Pro, but we're aiming to that hopefully by early in the new year.
And the only thing I'll say on that, which it looks like a really cool toy, but I find that the companion is a better product because it's a full Windows computer, so all your software is going to work on it. I do all of my work. In fact, I actually do more work on my companion than I do my big 22 because when I'm storyboarding, if it's a really big surface, I tend to spend a lot more time and I don't get as much done because these are sketches. But I have everything with me, and it's just a phenomenally fast and accurate and great project, and you don't lose the battery. Because the pens don't have batteries. It's the one thing about the iPad with the pencil that they have with it. That's what they call it. You do have to charge it. Now, luckily, you get a half hour of use supposedly after 15 seconds of plugging it in, so you can keep doing that. But to lose power in a pen, that's a drawback. So it's not that much more. You can get used or refurbished Cintiqs on the Wacom website for not much more than the big iPad Pro.
Good, thanks for that. So here's a question from Will. Is it possible to add in animated 3D sequences, or is it just objects? I am thinking about adding my blocked animation into my boards.
Yeah, it's just objects right now. We are looking into having a possible video layer, which we don't have yet. So just keep your eye out for that. But whenever I'm doing things like that, I do export my boards and things from Storyboard Pro into an edit suite. And so if I've got video that I need to edit with, now it's just one step to get there. I just export, and then in Premiere I edit them together. So right now that's going to be your best way. but it's still so much faster than the old way of drawing everything in Photoshop, breaking the layers apart, exporting into After Effects, doing all your moves in After Effects, exporting out of there, then bringing it into your edit suite to see it all together. Now it's just one step. So
we're out of time, but I'm going to take a couple more questions. If people have to leave the webinar, we completely understand. This session is being recorded and will be online hopefully tomorrow. It's very late. It's Monday. But Melissa has a question. I know that you can create additional keyframes for camera moves, but is there a way to add more than 2 keyframes for animated drawing layers?
There is, but it might not seem as simple as you would think. So there's a couple things that you can do when you're working with a layer. So I'll grab the Ned character here, this guy right here. So I can, as I showed before, I can put starting and ending, which are really the only keyframes that I can put in. So why am I saying we could have more? Well, there's 2 things you can do. One, I can hold the start in there. So I'm going to put this up to holding the start for 10 frames. So at the first part, as I'm scrubbing here, notice he doesn't move. At frame 10, now he starts to move. I can do the same thing with holding the end, so the character doesn't have to move during the entire panel that he's drawn in. So I can adjust the beginning and end of the movement. The other thing I can do is I can copy the scene and then or not copy the scene, but copy the panel. So I can have multiple panels and do the same thing again with other beginning and ending layer moves. So with other panels, I can have a character move that much more, and actually it's something that we do all the time. And so there's a number of different tricks. I can also do a move, let's say if I want him moving this far, but I want his character over all 3 of these panels to be moving in that. As long as they're named the same, they're all named ink, right? Yep, they're all named ink. So watch this. So I'm going to do layer, and I'm going to spread layer motion over the next 2 panels. So now, notice, it's a very smooth move. So again, there's multiple ways of making use, and I find that it's actually extremely strong.
Cool. So really, we're out of time, but I'll do one more question because there's so many great questions. So here's the last one. What's your experience in round-tripping to editing software? Tried a few times, and I didn't quite work well.
I'm not following what the question is.
Okay, so you know what? We'll take the rest of the questions offline because I really can't push it any further.
Okay.
If you guys would like, if we missed any questions as well, please feel free to email them at webinars@toonboom.com. If there are specifically questions for Mark Simon, we'll be sure to pass them off, but he's also available online and through Facebook and Twitter and all that. There will be 2 more webinars in this series next Thursday and the Thursday after that, so we're really trying to cover as much as possible, live action, gaming, and all that. So again, if you have any questions, thank you. Mark, you did a great job. Thank you so much.
That was a blast.
Great. And thanks everybody for attending.
All right, take care everyone. We'll talk to you next week.